For the Chargers to beat the Broncos, they need to spice things up offensively, and we have a plan so crazy it might just work, and that's to put Quentin Johnston in the backfield.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, Quentin Johnston is a polarizing player, and there's a lot of things that can be said about him. One thing that cannot be denied is when he has the ball in his hands, he is an absolute playmaker. So getting a little bit creative on offense, I think is going to be good. And getting the ball in Quentin Johnston's hands quicker, I think is going to be a good thing for this offense. Defensively, it's all about bringing that bad Bo Nix out. And thankfully, the last couple of games, he has been a turnover machine. So the Chargers need to continue that. And of course, as always, we wrap it up with our bold and game predictions.
And one of us thinks that it could be a gigantic game for Ladd McConkey, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. David, I had an idea today that seemed crazy, and maybe it is, right? But when I was thinking about the Chargers and going through the keys for success, you obviously want to see something from the running game, right? But it's just so hard to imagine it getting a lot better, especially against the top 5 run defense that they're going up against this week in yards per game allowed. And you also don't get the added benefit of Justin Herbert's leg, more than likely, considering where he ended last game and considering now they're playing on Thursday Night Football. And I just thought, if they were really creative, what if you had a Quentin Johnston running back package, right? Because if you look at what Quentin Johnston does well, and I do remember him talking about growing up, part of the yak ability when he came on the show was he grew up playing running back because he was really small. And then he grew, right? And then grew into a wide receiver's body, basically. But what I like about it is, first of all, the Broncos have no idea and have never seen it. No team has seen it. So you're bringing something completely fresh to catch them off guard. You're getting the ball in the hands of someone that we know is great with the ball in his hands and is electric and is a playmaker, like you said. And the other part of it is, you don't have to actually hand the ball off to him, right? Just having him in the backfield can open up some other things for you, like getting him free releases out of the backfield to go run routes. And it's just also a huge distraction. Like, that is going to draw a lot of attention, even if you want to use it as a kind of a decoy move. But I just would love to see that. You know, how many snaps? Like, it's not like you're going to have him out there pass protecting for Justin Herbert.
No.
Maybe you do a 2-back set or something like that to offset it, send him out on a route, keep Gus Edwards in to pass protect, however you want to do it. But if you were creative, it does seem like there's a way, David, you could use him like a Deebo Samuel a little bit, even if he's not Deebo Samuel, like a Cordarrelle Patterson, right, in the way that he's been able to get the ball out of the backfield, even as a non-conventional running back. And it's like, hey, maybe get creative, maybe see what happens.
He's a playmaker, and we've seen it so far this year. When you get the ball in his hands, he's able to make people miss. He's able to run people over. He is very, very difficult to get down on the ground. So I would love it. Put him in the backfield, get him a couple of carries, get him a couple of pitches, run him out to the flats, let him get into open space, because Quentin Johnston dominates in open space, especially if he's got a couple of blockers in front of him. He can make a lot of things happen. And this Chargers offense, quite frankly, needs a shot in the arm. They need some kind of just wake-up call, some kind of energy-inspiring play from somebody. And the way that Quentin Johnston's been playing the last couple of weeks, the confidence is obviously there. He's playing with more of a mean streak. He's got that angry runner in him, and I think this would be a great way to deploy him in this way. And, you know, like you said, keep the defense guessing.
And the Chargers had 32 rushing yards last week.
32.
Find me the team that's won a game with 32 rushing yards. Like, maybe it's happened, but you're just not going to win games if your running game is that inept. Spice things up a little bit. Your quarterback can't really move. Do things to help him out by getting more creative, and you could prove you're more creative by pulling out a move like this. The next key I would want to say is You have to have a better plan against the blitz. You've talked
Yeah.
about it this week. I talked about it. So many long developing plays that absolutely crushed them against the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers blitzed over 70% of the time, second highest that Justin Herbert's faced in his career. And what happened? It totally nuked everything the Chargers had going on. They couldn't figure out their protection. And now going into this week, you have Jamari Sawyer potentially filling in for Zion Johnson, who's missed practice all week and had to leave the last game with an ankle injury. And also, you just totally got blitzed to hell in the last game, and it, you couldn't do anything about it. So you have guys, right? Ladd McConkey can win quickly. Josh Palmer has shown the ability to win quickly. If you had any sort of screen game, it would be a gigantic boost if you're going up a team that blitzes a lot. And the Broncos blitz the 5th most in the league and rank 5th in the NFL in pressure percentage. The Bucs ranked 10th now. This is a team that gets pressure at a higher percentage than even the Buccaneers did. If you don't have a better plan against the blitz, I just don't know if I have any faith in what this offense is going to do. And if I'm the Broncos, that's the blueprint that I'm trying to roll out there.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, you absolutely have to get the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands quicker. You just can't be holding on to the ball so long to where, his receivers aren't getting open and he's getting crushed repeatedly. That just can't happen in this game. And, I'm glad that you brought up the screens because they used the tight end screens against the Broncos in the first game, and it worked very, very well. Why are we not using this more? Kaimani Vidal's first touch in the National Football League was a wheel route touchdown against the Denver Broncos. So why are we not utilizing his pass catching ability in the flats, get the ball out of your hands quicker? And I think this kind of leads me into my next key, which is win on first down. Far too often, the Chargers are in 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, and then all of a sudden they're in 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 9. You have to have more productive plays on first down. Those quick passes, those screen passes, those are going to enable positive yards, which is going to set you up in better 2nd and 3rd down situations. The Chargers have to stay out of 3rd and long in this game to protect their quarterback and to keep the ball moving down the field.
Yeah, and I think the hard thing about the screens, especially the Will Dissly screen that was really good for them early on, it just hasn't worked when they've tried it with anyone else. And I think the problem is people know that screen now. You have to do a different screen than that. You can get the running backs involved. You can, if you're really creative, use what you've been doing all season and actually be setting up a screen to the other side because everyone knows you're trying to run that same little Will Dissly, block and release screen pass.
Yeah.
The book is out on that. Switch it up, do things differently. And I totally agree with you. I think as far as staying ahead of the sticks, it's super, super important for the Chargers to play a clean game and take care of the football. We usually don't have to talk about taking care of the football with the Chargers because they've been like the least turnover likely team so far in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
In the last game, the Chargers turned it over twice. Really, one of them was more meaningful than the other. Turned it over on downs a couple of times as well. But one of the big reasons that the Broncos have won the last couple of games is because they have 3 pick sixes over their last 2 games. The Broncos have forced 8 takeaways against a Jameis Winston, against an Anthony Richardson, and the Colts also fumbled 3 times, including Jonathan Taylor fumbling into the end zone untouched.
It's unbelievable.
You can't help them out like that. Like you look at the point totals for the Broncos, you're like, how are they putting up this many points? Even though Bo Nix really isn't doing that much, they don't really have a great running game. How are they doing this? Well, 3 pick sixes, right? Against the Browns, it was almost 3 just in that single game, and had Jameis saying, he needed the Lord and divine intervention to deliver him from pick sixes. The Chargers can't make disaster plays in a game like this. You can't have the penalties. You can't get behind the sticks. Another thing is, too, the drops have killed them. I saw Daniel Popper reposted a post that had which quarterbacks had the most passes dropped by their receivers so far this year. Justin Herbert behind Aaron Rodgers, the second most passes dropped. So maybe not as high profile, but the drops have still been a problem again.
Yeah. You gotta catch the football, man. I mean, if the ball hits your hands, you gotta catch it. I mean, that's the rule of thumb. It just has to happen.
And Quentin Johnston can't drop it if you're handing it off to him.
Exactly. And I think just quickly, obviously, protect the football, like you said. Got to convert on 3rd downs. 0 for 6 against the Bucs on 3rd down. Like, that can't ever happen again, especially in this game against the Broncos on Thursday night in front of the world. You got to play clean football, and you have to continue to move the ball down the field, convert on 3rd down. And for the love of God, please come up with some kind of running game. The They've given up 100+ rushing yards in every single loss that the Broncos have had this season. If you can find a way to run the ball, it's going to help you win this game.
Yeah, absolutely, which was kind of what brought the whole Quentin Johnston thing up to begin with. But we still have more to get to on the defensive side of things, and that is to make the bad Bo Nix come out. They saw it a little bit in the first matchup. We've seen it over the last couple of weeks, and the Chargers have to replicate that if they want to get the win. So we're getting into that and much more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys to get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more in the same page where you place your bets. Even with the loss to the Buccaneers, the Chargers have held steady. They are still 3-point favorites going into Thursday Night Football against the Broncos, and that's a little bit of a sketchy line. I mean, I'm surprised the Chargers are favored by that much. It feels like a coin flip type of game to me. I also love going with the anytime touchdown scores, and you can get Quentin Johnston, who scored them back-to-back games, at plus 250 to get into the end zone. I also, if you want to take a flyer, maybe Stone Smart at plus 380. But there's so many different ways to bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's also that time of the year. The college football playoff is back, and with a newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. David is trying to get into our defensive side of things here as far as the keys for success go, because it's pretty clear what the Chargers need to do. And I would start just by saying the Chargers have to take care of the football, but they also have to force Bo Nix to give them the football in this game too. Like, if you tell me the Chargers are going to lose the turnover battle in this game, I'm going to tell you that the Chargers lose this game. Not only do I think they need to win the turnover battle, it's hard for me to imagine they win this game without forcing at least one turnover. And they're going up against Bo Nix, who undoubtedly has been one of the huge surprises this season, one of the better rookie quarterbacks out there, and has had some really, really big games. But you've seen that rookie side of Bo come out over the last couple of games, David, and that's what the Chargers need to do. They started doing it against Baker, and then it all fell apart. The Chargers have they can't take any chances. They have to see that version of Bo Nix, because if they see the version of Bo Nix that went up against them, that scored 16 points in that fourth quarter, it's not going to be good.
No, it's not. And fortunately for the Chargers, the Bo Nix that they are going to face is a Bo Nix that's thrown 5 interceptions in his last 2 games alone. So He's not particularly seeing the field very well. He's taking some unnecessary chances, throwing off of his back foot. And for me, it seems like every time he throws off his back foot, it gets intercepted. So if you're able to get in his face, get some pressure, which it's going to be a little difficult. I mean, the Broncos offensive line has been fantastic. They have not given up more. They have only given up 5 sacks in the last 5 games alone, which is disgusting, which is not great considering the Chargers had 1 sack and 2 QB hits against the Bucs. So if you want to continue to have those interceptions and those turnovers flowing, obviously the pass rush has to come back alive. They got to reignite that pass rush so that they can force Bo Nix into some of those mistakes that he's inevitably going to make.
When, as always, with the Chargers defense, something that has to get brought up every week, especially when you're facing a mobile quarterback, is you have to be able to keep Bo Nix in the pocket, because he went 60+ against you.
61 and was their yards on 6 carries.
Leading rusher in that first game. And obviously the Chargers won, but that could be a problem in a closer game, that you're not blowing them out already in the first half. And I think he had -2 passing yards in that first half when they first met up.
Pretty bad.
Jesse Minter told the media that he thought that they helped jumpstart this kind of run from Bo Nix when they gave up those 16 points in the fourth quarter of that first game. Now it's time to turn back the clock a little bit and force this to, be the continued skid of Bo Nix and actually make them pay for it by beating them. Because the crazy thing is even with how bad he's been over the last 2 games, they still won both games by double digits, and neither one was particularly close because other teams made more boneheaded plays than they did. But to your point, having to get pressure, it's not just the sacks, David. Like, the crazy thing about Bo Nix and having 5 interceptions over the last 2 games is in 5 of the last 7 games. This is crazy. The Broncos have allowed 4 pressures or less. 4 pressures.
Whew.
Go look at how many games Justin Herbert's been pressured 4 times or less. They don't exist. It hasn't happened. So like we talked about it last week, that your expensive pass rush, your 220 plus $1 million pass rushers have to be able to come through. And guess what? They failed that test.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. Right. The last time that this Broncos offensive line gave up 10 plus pressures was against the Chargers, right? They were missing their right tackle, which is important. They were missing their starting center. This is a better version of that line, and you just don't have any opportunity to win this game if it looks like it did last week. Like, it didn't seem like Jesse Minter ever really caught the Buccaneers off guard last week with the pressure packages, because even when they were blitzing, nobody's getting home, right?
Yeah.
One of Thule, Khalil Mack, or Joey Bosa is going to have a big game in this one for me to see the Chargers bringing it home.
Yeah, it's imperative. The Chargers pass rush has to come back alive. I mean, they're so crucial and important to the success of the secondary because they're eliminating time that they're having to cover, and they're forcing the quarterbacks to get rid of the ball before they want to. One of the reasons why Bo Nix has not gotten sacked a lot is because they get the ball out of his hands quickly and they throw it short. 182 of Bo Nix pass attempts have happened 0 to 9 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's 39% of his overall attempts. So what does that tell you? You got to make sure that you got to get ready to swarm the ball carriers. He's going to get the ball out to the flats. He's going to get to the ball to his tight ends on these very quick, short passes, kind of an extension of the running game, getting those positive plays. Some of the things I want the Chargers offense to do with Justin Herbert. Get the ball out quickly, keep the ball moving, stay ahead of the sticks and stay ahead of schedule. Don't let them do that. And when they do that, go out there and punish them, which is why I am very happy that Denzel Perriman is going to be coming back to play in this game. He stated, Bridget Condon of the NFL Network put out that he expects to play in this game, and the Chargers have desperately missed his presence because Denzel Perriman is an enforcer. He's a guy that goes out there and delivers punishing hits. He goes and he hits the hole like a heat-seeking missile and brings down ball carriers. That kind of edge, I think, has been missing from this defense. I'm glad that he's back, and hopefully he can instill that in the rest of the guys so they can go out there and play some bully ball.
Yeah, and I think one of the big reasons they won that first matchup is because they kept the Broncos running game down, and the Broncos don't have a prolific rushing attack. No. It's not one of the more vaunted ones in the league. And that is what, maybe the biggest Chargers Achilles heel has been, are these games where teams are having their way with them on the ground. Those are the games they put up big numbers against the Chargers. The short passes with Bo Nix, I mean, obviously, that would mean 60% of the passes are, past 10 yards down the field or behind the line of scrimmage. So it'd be interesting to know behind the line of scrimmage. But they do throw the ball deep. Like, you will see him take some shots, and they're very good at finding the moments they want to do it. Yeah. Like, Bo Nix has, I think, more deep passing attempts than just about anyone in the league so far this year. They pick their moments, and when they do, there's usually someone open. I think Bo Nix, when he's playing on schedule, is really good, and he's shown that. Like, he's shown he can follow the game plan that Sean Payton puts together, and it's why they've been such a good match so far this year. When he pushes all the right buttons, they're a very well-run offense. When he's not on schedule, when things go a little bit awry and he's throwing off his back foot and doing those things, things are going to go sideways a little bit for them, and they've had some pretty big issues offensively the last couple of weeks because of that. But they will test you deep, and they did in the first matchup. They're going to try to do it again in this one. You can't give them those opportunities. Multiple 35-plus yard gains in the passing game against the Chargers last week. They need Christian Fulton to play better. If they get the same play from guys like Christian Fulton and guys like Jasir Taylor, who obviously sat a lot of that game, if they can't get better play from their cornerbacks and from their secondary, it's going to be a really long game. And it was a long fourth quarter for them in the first matchup. This secondary has to step up. I mean, I think they can use the playmaking and physicality of a Tony Jefferson, who will get thrust into a larger role this week with Elijah Molden hurt. Alohi Gilman's on IR. You're also going to be missing Cam Hart in this game. You need these other guys to step up in the secondary, because for a lot of the season, the secondary was, a huge plus to this team. But as soon as that pass rush started not getting home, things started popping out, and there started being some leaks in that ship. started being some holes in this defense that we didn't see through the first 10 weeks of the year, especially when they were playing worse offenses. This secondary has to step up. They're going to be missing some starters, but there's no excuses for it. If they don't step up, it's going to be a long game for this Chargers defense. But I am looking for someone maybe like a Tony Jefferson to have a big game in this one. And I know it could also be a big game for Ladd McConkey. So we're getting into our bold and our game predictions and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First thing I tell you guys about PrizePicks is PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike on other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where you get discounted player projections up to 25% to add even more value to your lineup. And one of the best parts is it's the best way to get action on states in most, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And for this upcoming game, it's as simple as this to win. You can go with Justin Herbert throwing for more than or less than 229.5 passing yards, and pair that with Ladd McConkey getting more than or less than 67.5 receiving yards. You hit on those two, and you win. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly. All you have to do is play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about that you were paying for maybe twice? That definitely happened to me, and I've had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for. The Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place. Whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. I know for me, I had a baby. So when I use Rocket Money and saw the apps that I've been paying for that I literally haven't used in years in some instances, that's what you can get with Rocket Money. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. David, it's time to get bold and give our game predictions because this is going to be a hard game to predict. I'm not sure I can pick the Chargers to win in this one, even with FanDuel saying they are 3-point favorites. But as always, thank you guys for making us your first listen. We appreciate the everydayers out there. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the new slate at Locked On NFL, now back and better than ever with 2 shows a day, one hosted by Tyler the Madman Rowland and also my guy Tony Wiggins in the barbershop, bringing on the people who cover their teams every single day on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. David, let's start with our bold predictions today. We've given the fans, we still have some fans that we want to get in on today's bold prediction show for sure, and we want to keep doing it. It's been one of our favorite parts of bold predictions this year. But I know yours, and you went bold, so we're starting with that one. What is your bold prediction this week?
Yeah, so my bold prediction is Ladd McConkey is going to go off. And the reason why I picked Ladd is because the corners on the outside for the Broncos are pretty good. I mean, obviously, Pat Surtain is probably the best corner in the league. And then Riley Moss, if he's going to play, is another corner that, has been played very, very well when he's been out there.
Which I don't think he's practiced this week, so fingers crossed on Riley Moss.
They missed out on Surtain the first game, or pretty much because he went out with a concussion.
One play.
One play, and he was done. But they're not so lucky this week. He hurt his ankle, but he's been a full participant in practice, so we'll probably be seeing Pat Surtain. With that being said, I have Ladd McConkey taking advantage of the slot corner and the linebackers whenever they're able to manufacture that matchup. I think it's going to be a big game. 10 catches, 150 yards, and a touchdown for Ladd McConkey.
Damn, first 150-yard game for the rookie would be sweet.
Let's go.
I went with the other side. I love Ladd McConkey. It'll be interesting because, if I'm the Broncos, I'm putting Pat Surtain on Ladd McConkey and not thinking twice about it. He was covering Ladd McConkey when he got the concussion in that first game, was a Ladd McConkey reception. We'll see how they do it because that's obviously going to be a huge factor in what the Chargers can do offensively.
Yeah.
I went with Tony Jefferson in this one.
I love it.
I loved what I saw from him in that first game against the Falcons where he really played a big role in the game and just loved the physicality that he brought to the table.
Yeah.
Being able to get out in space and make tackles on short passes that we know the Broncos are going to do. I love Tony Jefferson in this game. I have Tony Jefferson with 9 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble in this one, getting a takeaway for this Chargers defense because they really, really need to force one. And I think we saw, even in that last preseason game, I know it's a preseason, but Tony Jefferson in that preseason game was just a total animal that was forcing takeaways, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, you name it, he did it. He has that ability, Tony. He's shown it in spurts. I think he has a big game this week against the Broncos. But let's get to the fans. We have a Thier here who thinks this could be the week the Chargers defense bounces back in a big way.
Daniel, my baby, this is a field injury bowl prediction. My defense will bounce back Thursday night. I'm going 6 sacks, 2 pick sixes. Chargers will beat their ass 27-7 and make a statement as they get ready to clinch at New England the following week. Love you. Let's go, Bulls.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love just the sentiment, at least of the Chargers having another, a big game defensively. Because, like, it's hard to trust them right now. Like they gave up a ton of yards against the Falcons. They got a bunch of turnovers. They played pretty well against the Chiefs, but, like, that's just not a Chiefs offense that scares you very much. And then went up against another top offense and did what they did, right? And gave up 40 points last week and 500 yards of offense. I don't think they're getting 2 pick sixes. I don't think they're getting 6+ sacks, but I do think, David, if the Chargers could have a dominant bounce back performance in this game defensively, that would just give me a ton of faith going forward that, hey, if they can do that against this Broncos team this week that scored 29 points in 4 straight games, they will be fine and should be able to handle the rest of their season pretty easily.
My goodness, man. A lot of those points that they generated were off of turnovers. And the cool thing, at least in the form of Bo Nix creating turnovers, is, he's thrown 5 in the last 2 games and 3 in the last game alone. So yeah. I think there's a possibility of the interceptions to come. I'm not going to say it's going to be multiple pick sixes because that's just something we don't really see in today's NFL.
The Broncos have actually done it, but yeah.
I mean, not the Chargers, often, right? You don't see it very often in the game, but that would be fantastic. And if they are able to even get 1 pick six, I think they're probably putting themselves in very good position to win the football game.
Absolutely, and I think that's where Zoe Shields came with this one, which seems, less bold, obviously, but I think it's such a key factor to what's going to decide this game. He said Chargers will be able to generate a consistent pass rush, 3+ sacks. For a lot of the season, especially the stretch of the season where I think the Chargers had 4+ sacks in at least 4 straight games, they wouldn't be a bold prediction. But obviously, after getting shut down last week and seeing what happened there, it's hard to just have total faith that this is going to be a game they're going to be all up in Bo Nix's face. Sacked 3 times, David. Is that something you could see getting consistent pressure? They had 2 sacks in the first matchup. And I think this really could be the deciding factor. And if the Chargers get this win, hey, if you're telling me right now they're able to generate consistent pressure throughout the game, I think they win.
Oh, there's no question about it. If they get 3 sacks in this game, they're definitely going to win the game. It just, like I said before, though, Bo Nix is really good at evading pressure. Obviously, he has the wheels, and the offensive line for the Broncos has played fantastic. Only sacked 5 times in the last 5 games cumulatively. So,
yeah.
And the thing is though, that Chargers pass rush is embarrassed along with the rest of that defense last week. So I think, coming off of a short week, this might be a good thing for them to be able to watch that bad taste out of their mouth immediately, get right back on the saddle and go and destroy the Denver Broncos. Take all of your frustrations, all of your anger, all of the hurt feelings from getting blown out and unleash that on the Broncos offensive line.
100% agree. Let's get this one here back on the offensive side from Spencer. He says the Chargers will score a 3rd quarter touchdown, which, again, doesn't seem bold by most measures. But for the Chargers this year, it's been far from a given that they're going to score in the second half or in the 3rd quarter specifically. I mean, I will say they did score 2 3rd quarter touchdowns against the Chiefs. That was only 1 game ago. Defensive touchdown in the 3rd quarter of the Falcons, I'm down to not count because it was a pick 6 by Tarheeb Still. And in that case, it's only 1 offensive touchdown in the 3rd quarter over the last 5 games. We know the stretch they had earlier this season. We're going 4+ games without scoring a touchdown in the entire second half. You have to get it done. And I think it's just the main theme here for this and the reason we're using this bold prediction. Play a freaking complete game for once. Please.
4 quarters. 4 complete quarters is what we're looking for. We're not looking for one half. We're not looking for one good quarter. We're looking for 4 complete quarters of football. That's what we have not seen at any point this entire season. Make it happen. And yeah, I know it's a short week. I know you got injuries. It sucks. You know what? Nobody cares. Go out there and play and go out there and win. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll just settle for, hey, like consistently just not having 3 straight drives where you go 3 and out, for turnovers or punt. Like, consistently be able to move the football throughout this game, and you're going to be able to win. I think the hard thing is I just don't have faith that the Chargers can do that right now. You have a super hot Broncos defense that, like we said, if it's forced 8 takeaways, I think the Chargers play a clean game. You're not going to see that point total from the Broncos. But, David, as we get to our game predictions here, even with them being 3-point favorites, I can't pick them in this game. I think that what you've seen from the Broncos is that they lose to the really good teams. Obviously, they lost to the Chargers, and we didn't necessarily buy into the Broncos then. But the Broncos are playing better football than the Chargers, period. They played worse teams. The Chargers got fat off an easy part of their schedule, too. But right now, it's pretty easy to see who's hotter. And I just can't, in good faith, pick the Chargers to win this one. I have the Chargers 20, Broncos 24. I don't fully trust the offense. The defense feels like they have a lot to prove now after that performance. And if Justin Herbert was healthy, I think they win this game, but I just don't have faith in that being the case, especially with only a couple of days of rest.
I completely get it, and I really understand it because I've watched the same team that you've watched all season long, the one that's been very inconsistent, the one that has not been able to stop any of the good offenses in the league defensively, and they haven't been able to score consistently at any point really this season. So I completely understand that pick. And honestly, I am not going to pick the Chargers to... Just kidding. Of course I'm picking the Chargers to win. It's short notice. They just got embarrassed. They got a bad taste in their mouth. I think they got to go out there and completely eliminate that bad taste by sweeping a division opponent. I don't think anything would feel as sweet at this point in the season. And also, you win this game, the Colts, the Dolphins lose, your ticket is punched to the playoffs. Done. Nothing else that you need to do. So, got to handle your business. It's going to be close. It always is. I'm going 24-21 Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, we basically have the same, just opposite teams winning this one. I hope that you're right, and I think you hope that a Jim Harbaugh-led team, one of the things you're going to get from him is a response in a game like this, right? Is a response to an embarrassment like the one we saw on Sundays. And I hope to God, late Thursday night, we're going to be back here having a live recap show talking about a big, giant win that all but no matter what happens throughout the rest of the NFL, basically punches their tickets to the playoffs. And I think gives you faith, hey, at least you're seeing them beat another good team for the second time and have a great chance to go 4-2 inside your division in the AFC West in year one of Jim Harbaugh, which is something they haven't done in like 10 plus years. So that is going to wrap things up for today's show. It is going to be a little bit different this week, but you know what tomorrow is? It is Thursday, so it's crossover Thursday. Locked On Chargers, Locked On Broncos. To make sure you guys don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from, as well as following us on all of our social media where we post the show every day. On Twitter at Locked On LAC, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Me and David also post it every day to our individual Twitters. For me at Dan Talk Sports and David at Dro Talk SD. You could shut up a lot of haters. Go get it done. Show us some progress. Show us some creativity on offense, and on defense, get back to making a quarterback's life a living nightmare, and you can get this game done. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.